Hello and welcome to the Authentic Alliance podcast. This is a place for authentic conversation to occur. I am your host, Anthony Granger, and if you would want to know a little bit more about me and the services that I provide, things like coaching, an online men's group, and much more, please go over to my Instagram, which is Anthony Granger, or head over to my website, which is anthonygranger.com. Oh, Jason, welcome to the Authentic Alliance podcast, brother. Honestly, I'm so glad that you agreed to come on. I'd like to start off the podcast just by telling the guest a little, like one of the main reasons why I brought you on and why I wanted to have this conversation with you. And honestly, Jason, for you, I think I've told you this before because I know we have been talking a lot in the past few months, but like you secretly inspired me for fucking years without you even knowing it. And it was by you just having that sense of authenticity around your business and around yourself, and you not being scared to like put yourself out on Facebook and come up with all these new business ideas and not care if some of them fail or some of them, go as far as you want them to go. But you're always just show like you would just keep showing up for yourself on Instagram and Facebook, and you're putting yourself out there. And I was thinking, wow, I wish like one day I could be like that. I wish one day I could show the world what I was actually getting up to and show the world like what was going on behind closed doors for me. And like, I hope one day I'm not going to be scared of other people's judgment, and I am going to, put myself out there and just go for it. Like, I remember one time in Australia when we met in Australia with Joe. I remember one time, like I asked you to go for a coffee, but I think you were busy and I was busy, but I was like, so nervous because like that was my chance, and I wanted to like really sit down with you and like get to know the real Jason and like get to know like what goes on in your head and how you're able to like really show up for yourself and how you're able to like not care about other people's judgment. And honestly, I mean, it's been beautiful because the past few months I've actually been getting to know you fucking a lot better, and we actually have a great like a beautiful friendship now. And it's because we are vulnerable and we are authentic with each other. But yeah, that's the main reason why I wanted to get you on. Plus, I just think you're a fucking awesome dude and my friend as well. But the main reason was around just like you truly being able to show up for yourself and show the world who you truly are, So I just wanted you to say, I just wanted to start off with that,
I appreciate that, man. I didn't even realize that. And you should have just said, let's go for that coffee like when we were over there.
No, yeah, I think we were both busy and there was things, things on, and it's fine because I think everything's divine time, and I think everything happens at the right time. And like even when I look back, like I was nowhere near having the confidence in myself to do anything back then, and I was still trying to figure it out. It was a very dark time for me back then because it was just everything was into question about who I was, what I wanted to do, why was I even in Australia, it was just a lot of chaos in my life right now. Back then, I mean, sorry. So I feel like it all happened at the right time. But yeah, let's get into it. So first of all, Jason, I want to start off with just talking about like the old Jason. I know that you're from Seaham, you're from my hometown. We know each other. We grew up together. We both had the similar childhood. And I think we're both on similar paths at the minute where we are both trying to be kind of entrepreneurs, and we're trying to live the unconventional lifestyle. We don't want to live the 9-to-5 job. We want to try and make our own niche, make our own market, be creative with our own ideas, and just be entrepreneurs. And I just want to talk about like your experience and how you grew up and the old Jason and how your mind used to work. And then I want us to try and transition into like, when things started to change. And then I want us to talk about the new Jason. So yeah, can you just start off talking about like what life used to be like for you when you were young?
Yeah. So when I was young, that's where do I start? So the old me, I think, so the old me, and this sort of like, it was something that you said, or I think, I'm sure it was you said this in another conversation, like recently, and it was about having to have people around you or something growing up. I don't know if that was you, it could have been someone else, it might have been somebody else, but like, I remember like, so certainly from like teenage years, like when everybody used to go out in big groups and stuff like that, or we used to go and do things like pictures or wherever, like I always used to be the one who would like organize and instigate that and that sort of thing. So maybe then I didn't sort of want to be on my own. I don't really know, maybe definitely didn't know myself properly, or what I thought I knew. And I think not a lot of people like, it's not like you don't know who you are, but it's like you tend to just go with the flow kind of thing of what's going on. And that's sort of like where I was back in the day. But the funny thing was, I don't know. I always felt like there was something more for us. I felt like I had some sort of purpose. Now, I don't know if that's like my ego or something, or really like, no, I really do have a purpose. I do honestly do feel like I do have a purpose. I feel like I've found that purpose now, and it's now just about getting it out there to the world and stuff. And my purpose is basically to help people, help people through various different methods, with the food, the fasting, yoga, like calisthenics, mindset, just all that sort of stuff. And that's really, really what I want to be doing right now, is just anything that's to do with my passions, anything to do where I can help people. And that's really what I want to be doing. The old me, up until, I think until it was when I went to Ibiza for the first time, for the first summer. So when main plumber went to Ibiza, and it was like, so the year before that was actually the year before Ibiza, the Ibiza season. I went on holiday, and it was like my first lads' holiday. It was my first time abroad, and it was Ibiza, and it was like, sort of like, if you think about it, I feel like we're in a sort of bubble sometimes, wherever we are. Like, it's not just here, but like wherever we are, we sort of like sometimes get stuck in a bubble and think that this is the only sort of area that we can live in, and that sort of thing. And it was when I went on holiday, and like, it's like meeting people and like talking to people, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm doing the summer here. I'm like, what, you living here for the summer? And like, for me, I've always been a person who's like, if you can do it, I can do it. Because like, who are you to me? You're just another human. So like, if you're capable of doing that, then I must be capable of doing that. So in my head, I was like, right. After that, it was sort of playing on my brain, and I was like, I was just thinking, like, I didn't have in my head like who would come and do this with me, kind of thing. And me and Plumber was sort of like, we weren't really like that close back then, but we'd sort of like knocked about together and stuff. And I think we might have been training together at the time. I'm sure it was in Gym 55. And I think that's when I asked him, I was like, do you want to do like the summer in Ibiza? And he was like, yes, straight away. And then it was like, right. So we booked flights and stuff, mate. We booked flights. And yeah, mate, like, we didn't even take that much when we went over, mate. It was just like, right, we're just going to go at it and just do the best we can, mate. And we smashed it. We had the time of our life, mate. Best summer I had. And that for me was like, again, speaking to people who's there, other workers and stuff, and it was like, oh yeah, I done last summer in Ibiza, then I went off to Oz, and then I done this, and then I'm back here in Ibiza. And I was like, so people's like doing this and doing that, and then that for me was just like, actually, you can do and go and be whoever you want to be. And then certainly when I came back to the UK, I got back into, I had 2 IT jobs at the time, and it was the second one was a contract, and then I was contracting after that. But a lot of the time I was working away from home, so I was like, I lived in Derby for like 8 months. I lived in Leeds for a little while. I lived in Scotland for a couple of months. I've literally worked all over, and like since then, like going to Ibiza for the summer was my like start.
That was like the start of the journey of the new Jason. I like that, because I like what you said there. I want to touch on that, like the bubble situation, because I mean, we were both from a small town, and it's not just Seaham, it's not just the small town. It's everywhere around the world. We all get in our little bubbles. You know, I mean, I know I've been traveling, and I'm in Canada now, and I was in Australia, and even in Australia and Canada, you find yourself in these small town like vibes and suburbs where they are very much also in their bubble. And it's funny because I had the exact same experience, Jason, where I like, it was just all my life, I just didn't know there was anything else out there. And if you don't know there's anything else out there, there's no other option to take, then how can you take that option? And it's funny because I feel like growing up in a small town vibe, we do get stuck in that bubble, and because we haven't been shown another option, it's hard for us to even take another option. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to take that option. I mean, I feel like, you know, it's traveling and going off is not for everybody. It's definitely not. But for the people who want to do it, I feel like sometimes it can be hard for them to grasp and fathom if they haven't like met people or, you know, heard about people doing it. Because for me personally, I know when I was growing up, my ex-girlfriend had two brothers who traveled, and they used to tell me stories and stuff. And, you know, my friend, Willa went to Australia, and I was like, wow, you can just go, like, you can just get a visa in another country and like you can go and travel. Like, that is insane, you know? And like, that was the turning point for me as well, just realizing like, holy fucking shit, like I can actually leave and just do what I want. And not only that, but when I get there, I can kind of drop this persona of who I'm trying to be here, because, you know, I grew up and I felt like I was always trying to, it was my own choice, you know, it was my own insecurities that was causing this, but I very much thought that I couldn't show myself to the world, and I always had to wear a mask around everybody around my hometown and the people I was knocking around with. And it was only from my insecurities. But the inspiration for me to go traveling wasn't just the traveling in beautiful countries, but also like, holy fuck, I can be a new person. I can be who I want to be out there. I can drop me guard. I can meet new people and just show up for me, and, you know, not care about other people's opinions, because people doesn't know who I am. Did you have a similar experience, like where you're able to like kind of shed some old layers and become a new version of Jason?
In some ways, I feel like there wasn't like a new version of Jason. It was like I've always had like the same sort of values and principles of like of how I am as a person, kind of thing. But maybe that didn't come across as much. Maybe I was like, I did have a bit of more of a, certainly in my teenage days up until maybe 18, 19 or something. Maybe I did have a bit of a, like how you say, like wearing a mask kind of thing, like being a bit more, like, let's say, a tougher or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Or like sort of acting like in that sort of way. To sort of like how I think now. I couldn't give a shit. I just like being a nice person and being good to people, because it makes you feel good, and love makes the world go around, and it's and karma as well, mate. Like, I realized since I like started like doing more like intentionally just doing more good stuff happens to you, and it's like, you know what it is, it's like, why wouldn't, if you've got an opportunity, right, to be able to do something in your power, right, and it's not really going to take anything away from you, to be a good person, whether that's like I like paying a compliment to someone, or just holding the door open, or just, do you know what I mean, like, why not? Why not? Because that can make all the difference to somebody else's day. And the way I see it is like, it can be like a ripple effect, so they can do it to somebody else, and then that person does it to somebody else, and then the next person, and then it comes back to me, kind of thing. So like, that's just sort of it. That's how I sort of am. But I think, going back to what you said, maybe I did sort of, maybe I wasn't as sort of, definitely not as open as I was either. That's a big thing as well, because I would, any sort of problem I had as well, I would bottle it up, kind of thing. I wouldn't really speak to anybody about it. And I realized that being one of my quite, it's like, what's it called, like a trait, like that's one of my things that I need to work on, kind of thing. And I have, I'm very open to people. Like, I'm probably like really open to people. Like, if for instance, I'm making a cup of coffee at work, like where I was working there, making a cup of coffee, it's Monday morning, and someone's like, oh, how are you, and how was your weekend? And like, if I haven't been good for 2 weeks or something, my response was like, I'm not too bad, like, but my head has been up my arse for a couple of weeks, and this, that, and the other. And then do you know what it is? Through that, though, sometimes I've actually sparked up conversations with people, and they've actually said, oh, well, do you know what, this, and this, and then they open up to me. So it's like, you can, honestly, I can predict conversations with people. Like, I'll see somebody walking up to somebody, and I know it's like, hello, are you all right? And before they've even finished, are you all right? It's like, yeah, I am. Are you? And it's like, it's just a habitual thing as well. It's like, it's just in our thing. You're like, and even if you're not doing good, you're like, yeah, not so bad, kind of thing. And it's not a bad thing. But I just found, for me, I feel like I don't want to be if I'm not having a good time, I don't want to be putting on the happy me all the time, because it's again, that's going against on how I'm feeling on the inside and stuff. And again, going back to just being more open with people and getting things off your chest kind of thing. Not a big thing, but my head's been all over for the past couple of weeks. And sometimes just saying that just to make you feel a little bit better. And again, the other person might even like share something with you, which like I said, I have done in the past, and it's
I love
I like on those relationships as well. So it's like,
I love that, Jason. I love that you actually, because we all know we were talking about just before we pressed record about that, and like it's true, because what I used to think when I was young is like, you know, vulnerability is a weakness, and like, you know, but I only used to think it was a weakness in myself. If I ever seen someone else opening up or be vulnerable, I always used to think, fuck, that's so cool. It's so courageous that they're able to be like that authentic and that upfront and actually tell people how they're actually feeling. And what I believe is, and like we were talking about, is I feel like we all need to like set the standard for other people. And if like me and you, or you know, you and your day-to-day life, or me and my day-to-day life, because this is something that I'm trying to spread, the message of vulnerability and the message of like authenticity, meaning like if you're feeling like shit, don't just say you're okay. I mean, you don't have to go so deep into like tell them your life problems and your secrets when you don't know them, but you still just could be authentic, because normally what happens with me is, like you said, people are like, oh, how you feeling? I'm like, well, you know, I probably had a shitty day yesterday. I was tired and I was feeling a bit like run down and depressed. And they're like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, same, I was as well. Like, you know, like I'm feeling this way and this way. But when beforehand, if I was like, yeah, I'm all right. Are you? Yeah, I'm all right. We would have walked away from each other. So I feel like the message here, what we're trying to see is kind of like,
it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah, don't be afraid to like, and I know it's hard and it does take time, but like, don't be afraid to once in a while, like tell people how you're actually feeling, because you'd be surprised not only how you feel, like how powerful you feel by being able to admit that to yourself, but also like how many more deep connections you'll make from that. Because like me and you, Jason, like we were talking about again off air, we were talking about like how we grew up together, you know, we grew up, had a crazy childhood. I mean, we might even touch on that, you know, a lot of drugs and alcohol and, you know, a lot of partying and stuff. And, but like, I didn't truly know you, you know, I didn't really know who Jason was. Like, I didn't, you know, I mean, I know you were like a drinking friend. We went out partying and stuff and I would have conversations. But over the past year, I think, or 6 months that we've been talking, because we're both very open to vulnerability and we're both very open to like being authentic with each other and speaking our mind. Like, can you speak on this? Like, our connection as being like, our friendship is deep as ever, you know. I feel like you're a friend that you can rely on for support. I mean, you're a friend that I can rely on for like an honest reflection back to us, that you can call us out on me shit, you can give us some support, you know. It's like, and that connection is something that I'm trying to promote as well, you know, and I think you are as well.
Definitely, mate. No, I completely agree with you. Completely agree.
Yeah. Okay, so the things started to change for you when you went to Ibiza and you started to realize like, okay, there's a life outside of there. So what benefits do you think you've had from living that life, from the person you were like living at home, and then when you started to like, you know, go out into the world and travel a lot more? So your whole experience. So how long have you been traveling now? Like, in a sense.
Well, I would say since then it's like it's 10 years. So it was 2011 that we went and done the first season there.
Yeah. So I want you to touch on like what benefits you've kind of got out of that. And also, I want you to give at the end. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but at the end, I want you to give a little bit of advice to someone who's thinking about doing it, you know, and like what you would tell to your old self, what you would tell to yourself who would just before I went to Ibiza, like what would you tell yourself, you know?
So what I learned from it, what I gained from it and learned from it was that basically, again, you can do anything that you want, anything that you set your mind to. And I learned that so yeah, you can do anything you want and anything you put your mind to. And I see it. I spoke to so many different people. Like I made friends with so many different people from different places, different backgrounds. You know what I mean? And for me as well, like I not that I would do it all the time, but maybe like judge people from appearance, and I think we're all guilty of this, is judging somebody based on maybe how they look or how they are, sort of thing. And then when I've realized, like through probably like deep like conversations with people, that people deep down, we've all got the same sort of values, and it's really about like what you look like or anything like that kind of thing. And yeah, I've through that, I think that's just expanded me to be able to like I say, just I can have conversations with anybody, even if it's like new people. From there, I went on to do like contracting, as I said. So I would spend 3 or 6 months at a job, then move on to the next one, and I'd go through the same process again. I meet new people. I like, you know what I mean? It's a new space, a new office, a new this, a new that. But for me, it was like every time I went somewhere, it was like, cool, I'm doing IT for this company now. Oh, it's interesting. What are they doing? And like, oh, what skills do I learn here? And then I learned from there, and we're going on to the next place. And then I got to, through doing that, I got to travel so many places. I got put up in so many nice hotels, all my food paid for, like everything. And it's just like, if you're thinking about making a move to go somewhere or experience something, or if it's like, or quit my job and go and move to another country, or just quit your job and go and try a new job, then honestly, I would be going for it. Like, and sometimes it's not in everybody's circumstances to just be able to say, right, I'm just going to stop doing that and start doing this kind of thing. But what you can do is, right, start thinking like, I don't know, let's say if it's a job change, for instance, what job are you going to change to? Okay, it's that field of work. So for you, you've never had any experience in that field of work, not you, but like the person.
Yeah.
You start spending 10 minutes a day, and if it's just watching a YouTube video on it, start watching 10 minutes a day on a YouTube, and then it'll spark an interest. You'll be watching something else. Before you know it, you're doing half an hour a day, then you're doing an hour a day. Then you've went and bought a course off what's his face, who's really good at it. Or now you've got a personal coach in it. And then a year later, you're like, yes, I've had to put in a bit more time and effort, and I've spent some lunch breaks, or I didn't go out on the nights that I would have usually went out, but I put the time into this. But you'll realize once you start doing that, once you start putting the time into your passions or the things that you're sort of interested in, it'll spark with the interest. It'll spark like sort of like it's like a catalyst for just for continuing what you're doing. And it's like you'll get to a point where you're like, hold on, I can actually make the jump now. Or it might be that you work in 2 jobs. So you might be working 9 to 5, and then you go out on a night and drive around in a van with hot tubs and put them out for people and get changed in the work car park into you. Do you know what I mean? And speaking from experience there, I was working a lot, and it was just trying to find out what made me tick, trying different things. And sometimes you might not know what you want to do. I certainly didn't. I didn't know what I wanted to do until I actually got to New Zealand. So I'll move on to that in a second. But the advice is just go for it. And if you can't just make a change there and then, like let's say I don't know, let's say you have moved out of if you're my age, you moved out of the house and stuff, and maybe you have kids and stuff, and it's not as easy as just to say this and this. But if you practice, like if you just start putting in a little bit of work every day, even if that takes 5 years, even if it takes 5 years, in 5 years' time, if you haven't done anything, so you've got 2 decisions. You can either put in 10 minutes, or you can put in like some work each day for 5 years, and then in the 5 years' time, like you can quite easily change your career. If you spend 5 years studying something, I once heard this thing is like if you spend 1 hour a day on a chosen field, within 5 years, you will be a national expert in that subject. So it's like this sort of stuff can happen, and all you have to do is take the first step, and that first step could literally be like 10 minutes watching a YouTube video on whatever it is, or it could be find somebody in the field that you may be thinking about going into, and just drop them a message and just say, look, I've been thinking about doing this, this, and this, or been thinking about getting into the field that you're doing. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? And then through that, you might spark. You don't know the person who you've just messaged, right, or the person that you like is in the position you want to be in. You could message them, and they could say, well, do you know what? I've actually been looking for somebody to mentor or to do this. And honestly, when you start if you've got intentions, right, and this is going into universal laws and stuff, if you've got intentions out there and you're putting out that intention, if you're thinking about it all the time or like you're writing it down or whatever, once you start making actions on whatever it is that you're doing, the universe will respond and it'll make things easier for you.
Yeah.
It'll put things in your path. It'll help you out. It'll sort of guide you in a way sometimes. And that could be, it could be somebody who comes into your life or
just opportunities coming, like opportunities, seeing things on a billboard, walking past, meeting people that you've never met before and them telling you certain circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
It's Jason, honestly, everything that you've just said there, like, and I don't want to cut you off. I want you to keep going, but I'll just say a little bit, like, everything that you said there is just so bang on. It's unbelievable. Like, I think about this all the time, and it's right. And I feel like people think if they want to change, because we're talking about career change here, and obviously this goes to every aspect of life. But if we're talking about career change, it's not as easy as just like, I'm going to change my job tomorrow, especially when you've got kids and family. But the thing is, like, especially with me in the past, it's more about just making the decision, and not having any time attached to the decision. So like, if I'm in a shitty job and I'm like, I'm going to change my job, that is the first step. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to have a plan sorted. You don't have to do anything. You just have to believe in yourself that you wanted enough to change your job. Like, I'm going to change my career. Okay, that's the first step. Good. You've got that. Everything else is going to come on from that. And a lot of people just don't even make that decision because they think about all the obstacles and all. Well, I can't really think about it theoretically in my head how this could happen. So they don't even get to the first stage of like just admitting to themselves that they're going to change the job. And you're right in what you're saying. It's like, it doesn't have to be overnight or in a week or in a fucking year. It could be 4 years. Make that decision. Try new experiences, like you said, and like build on that. It could be an hour a night if you want to change from, I don't know, a factory worker to a bricklayer. I don't know, start watching YouTube videos, start reaching out to your bricklaying friends, or start to do an evening, college course 2 hours a week, and just build on it very slowly. It doesn't have to be this overnight thing. It has to be built on very slowly. And I think that's what catches people off guard, because they think that if they kind of do it tomorrow or next week, it isn't possible, when we have to realize things definitely change in your life, whether it's in yourself or in physically in your life, comes in time. It takes time for change to happen. And I like one other thing that you touched on there was experiencing new experiences. Like, holy fucking shit. Like, Jason, for the past 4 years, that's all I've been trying to do is put myself out there and experience as many experiences that I can, because it's not about trying to find the experience that I really want to do, but it's more about crossing off the experiences that I don't want to do, and like narrowing myself down to like, this, like, instead of trying to look for something, I'm more like just experiencing all these things, different fields of work, trying new projects. And you're obviously going through this. I mean, I see you on your day-to-day life, you've always got new business ideas and this coming off. And it's great because even though some of them ideas don't go as far as like becoming a success, but at least you've tried it. You've learned something from it. You've crossed it off. Okay, I don't like that, so I'm going to try something new. I don't like this. I'm going to try this then. And it's all about finding and narrowing down your experiences to a point where you come to a pinpoint of a place. And I feel like you never really reach there, but you maybe come to a pinpoint of a place like, fuck, I found me thing that I really enjoy. And this is what I'm going to really give all my energy to right now. But behind me, I've got about 150 different experiences that I've tried to be through and failed at and stopped and, changed direction. And,
but that's that. But like, you said something the other day, which I really liked, was you haven't failed, you've just found out another way that doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so very similar to what you've just said, yeah, and it's so true, man. It's so true.
Yeah. So with that, then I want to get into business, Jason, because like I said, I think you're very, very smart, Jason. You've got very clued up. And I think a lot of people who know you know that. I think we all know you as someone with a lot of creative ideas and a lot of fucking potential to get the ball off the ground. And I feel like a lot of people's in your corner supporting you, especially me. So I just want to talk about a little bit about business, Jason, and like when the first idea came about and, what was the first business idea for you and how it's all kind of manifested together and came together. Yeah.
So this goes back to not knowing what I wanted to do when I left school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I only found out a couple of years ago, but never knew what I wanted to do. And with me sort of being contracting and stuff. I was going from job to job with decent jobs, working for companies, like I say, getting to go and see different places and stuff. But it's something wasn't sort of it wasn't satisfying my need for. I didn't feel like I had sort of like purpose, if that makes sense. And it was sort of, and for me, I was like, I want to find out what I want to do. So it was like, I'll try some things. And the first thing was, so the first thing was it the hot tub, or was it, did I do something before that? I can't remember if I'd done something online. When was that? 2014? No, it wasn't. It was before then. So the hot tub business was the first physical business. Before then, I think this was like 2014. I was working on. So I came up with an idea. I'm going to tell you in a second, but I think all it was just trying. I would always think of ideas. I write things down on my phone all the time. Even some things don't make sense, and I'm like, oh, that's quite good. Or I look at something and I try and solve a problem, and then sometimes I'll go through my notes and like, oh, actually that fits with that. Oh, actually that could do that, and that sort of thing. But one of the business things that got into my head, and this was a few years ago, and I don't know if I should say this because I still plan to launch this like in the next few years, and whenever it is, when I've done the other 500 things.
But don't say anything. Don't say anything.
I'm not bothered, mate. Honestly, I'm not bothered. I've got billions of ideas, and I'm going to think millionaire. So it was called Go Leafless, right? And the idea was, so you get junk mail through the door all the time, leaflets from takeaways, this, that, and the other different businesses and stuff. So the idea was, what I wanted to do was put in, those signs on the letterbox, no mail, no junk mail here. But it was no junk mail. We use Go Leafless. So the Go Leafless was it was leafless leaflets at first, but that's like a bit of a tongue twister. I was like, actually, leafless means like going green, like you're not using the paper. So it was like Go Leafless, and I was like, that works. So the idea was, people would come and post the takeaway menus, like people from the local takeaways and stuff, and they say on the letterbox, oh, Go Leafless. No junk mail, Go Leafless. I wonder what Go Leafless is. And they go to Go Leafless and say, oh, all of these businesses doing this, this, and this. So it's basically like an online directory. And it was going to be like an online directory of businesses and then users. So you come in to see them into the local area, or you could be away somewhere, or like me, because I used to work away all the time, I would look for food and that sort of thing. And what can I do in the area, or this kind of things. And Go Leafless was a way of getting rid of all of the junk mail, because the stats, I can't remember what the stats are, mate, but the stats are ridiculous for junk mail. Yeah. And the way I look at it is, you could have one leaflet online, and in an instance, you just go on and change your menu, rather than, oh, we've just changed the menu, or we've just put the prices up. All right, we've got to go and deliver another 5,000 leaflets now. Take away all of that. And that was sort of like, I think that was one of the first business things that I'd done. I tried to do some drop shipping as well online with like personalized items. What else have I done? Some things I never even told anybody. I was just doing these, trying different things, and like I barely told anybody about Go Leafless, but I was going to takeaways and stuff, saying, oh, do you want to get on my website, this, that, and the other. And then it was like, something happened. Well, I'm going to mention it, but I don't know if I really want to go into much detail on it. On this, maybe it might be one for something later down the line. But you know, when my brother set fire to the house, at that time it was just like, there was a lot going on in the family, and my mind like went from like literally and I was learning how to build websites at the time. At that time, I was like, it was learning WordPress, how to build a website through WordPress, and then doing bits of this, learn this, do bits of that. And I was just, like I see it, every spare minute I got, lunch times on an evening and on a weekend, that sort of stuff, I was spending time on this. I was having meetings with like designers and stuff and all sorts of things. And I was just like in work mode. I was like, right, get this done. And then it was like, that just completely knocked me off balance. And it's sort of like, when I didn't continue to do it, I lost interest in it. And it was sort of like, I lost that rhythm with it. I lost I think I lost faith in everything in it. And it was just like, oh, do you know what it is? In my mind, I was like, do you know what it is? maybe it wasn't right at the time, but what I've actually took from that experience, what I've took from that business that I've done there, I learned how to build a website. So that was amazing. Like, do you know what I mean? I learned that. I learned some marketing skills. I learned a few other bits and pieces. And it's like, from there, I remember that I thought, right, if I try anything, if I try any job or if I try any idea, I'm going to pick up some valuable skills for that. And while this might not be the actual thing for me, I've tried it, I've got these skills, and now the next time I go to do something, I've got an extra couple of skills in my back pocket to be able to tackle that thing that I'm going to do next. And it's worked. I've told people this before, like when I came to do the Yoga Every Hour website. Mm-hmm. I built that myself. It took a lot of time and I did have to relearn a lot of things. But I was like already 10 steps ahead. That means I didn't have to pay for a web designer. Mm-hmm. I also learned, I did start to use Canva to create content and stuff. But like now I can go on and create people logos if I want to. Do you know what I mean? So I've learned like design things. I've learned marketing. I can do Facebook ads. I just learned so much through doing different things. And like I say, it's another. I'm finding another thing that like how do we say it? So I'm like finding another thing that I don't want to do. Mm-hmm. But through that, I've ticked one off the box and I've gained a few skills. So it's like. To me, it's never a failure. It's just a lesson. Like there's no failures in life; they're just lessons. Yeah. People who say it's not a failure; it's just a lesson. Like when you go to the gym, right? For instance, when you go to the gym and you've got your program, and let's say you're doing the reps, and let's say this week it's like you've got to do this many of these reps. Oh, I only get 9 reps, and I was supposed to get 10. You do not walk out of that gym and say, "Oh, I've just failed in the gym there." No, you didn't. You say, "I've just pushed my guts out there, and next week I might get 10." Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? It's not a failure, it's just a lesson.
Yeah, and I love that. And I love that you're touching on the experience side of things, because that is something that, yet again, at the start of my little journey of like trying to, branch out and start coming up with creative ideas and try and go down to find my passion and what I want to do. A lot of the times I used to think that I was failing, all the time. But like now I look back and even like further back, even like when I was young, I'm like, wow, every single thing that I've done is like built me to the person who I am today. Every experience I've learned something from it. And like you touched on there, like even for me, like most recently I was like a physique coach and blah, and like learning how to do things with like spreadsheets and websites, and just every time that I've tried to do an idea and it hasn't went as far as that I wanted to do, I've always just learned so much from it. And the crazy thing about like all of that is like now I can just see it all so clearly. I can just see everything so clearly. I've like had to do all them things now, so they're definitely not failures. They're actually like, for me, they're kind of wins, because I learned so much from everything. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, even outside of business, Jason, like I feel like just experiencing different things in life is really important as well for your own personal growth. I know business is a big part of both of our lives because it's what we're passionate about, and we want to create ideas to help other people out. But I feel like just being really open-minded in life and like try to quiet that fear of judgment, like fear of judgment of yourself or fear of judgment of other people judging you. And obviously, like I said before, you inspired me in the early days because like you were being very open about like trying yoga and calisthenics and stuff like that, and like experiencing new experiences. Yet again, you were pushing yourself past the boundary of that bubble, pushing yourself outside of the norm that we grew up in. So can we talk a little bit about that? Like a little bit about when you first go into yoga and when you first start to get, big about calisthenics, because I want to get into it at the end, your Cali G, your business. I want to talk about that, but I think like a good transition and into that will be you talking about how you found yoga and calisthenics.
So it started with the calisthenics. It started with calisthenics, and it was when I moved to London a few years ago when I got offered that job and ended up moving down there. And I was at the time I wasn't training. I'd been out of the gym for a couple of years. I'd also been working like 2 jobs, like doing the hot tubs and everything. But I had a shoulder injury that kept on recurring every time I went back to the weights. So I was like, do you know what it is? I need to just say goodbye to those. And wasn't training. And when I'd moved down to London, on a night, I found myself going for a pint. And it was like I was going for a pint most nights, and it was like it was only 2 or 3 pints, not loads, but those 2 or 3 pints all started to add up, and the price of a pint in London's quite expensive. And I was just sort of thinking to myself, like, and I was looking around and, you know, walking home from work and that sort of thing, and I was just like, there's a lot of pubs like around where I lived in London, and it was like there's 2 types of people here. There's one who goes to the gym, and there's one who goes to the pub after work. And I was like, I'm the gym person. I used to be mad for the gym. Like, I remember when I was like 19, 20 years old, I was training twice a day, and I didn't even have anything to train for. Like, I used to be obsessed with this, and I was like, what happened? So I was like, right, you're going back to the gym, and it's just to do body weight stuff. So I was like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm just going to focus on body weight stuff. At least I'm doing something. Maybe I will pick up a weight up at some point, but in my head, I was like, body weight, I can't really be putting that much, that much sort of strain on my shoulder. Yeah. It wasn't a problem at the time, but I didn't want that to come back because that set me back so much. Do you know what I mean? And I was just like, I don't want that to come back. I'd rather just train slowly at a pace that I'm doing it. Body weight, nothing too much. Get my body sort of back aligned in alignment as well, because this shoulder was like pulled forward as well. And it was when I got into the gym, I was doing. I'm going on a little bit here, but when I joined the gym, I was doing some body weight stuff. And have you seen the human flag? Now, where you sort of sideways on a floor.
Yeah.
So I was doing some sort of progression to that, just doing like edge of my hip, holding on, and then like holding the top bar here, holding the bar on the side, and then trying to use my body to bring my hips out and to bring myself up the side a little bit. And I was watching who's my calisthenics personal trainer, my friend Gia. He was coaching somebody, training them, and I seen it was like body weight stuff, and we're doing like L6 or something on the rings, and I collared him in the changing rooms, and I was just like collared him. I'd shout to him, and I was like, oh, do you train people and stuff? And because like I'm doing this I'm doing body weight stuff, and I didn't really know what calisthenics was at the time, and I was like, I want to do handstands and stuff, and he was like, do you know what it is? He says, like, because he is quite well known in the scene as well, and I think sometimes people might want to train with him just to be the same train with him, but I didn't even know who he was at the time. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he was like, do you know what it is? He says, you're doing your flag progressions and you're doing really well. He's like, I'll train you. So we exchanged numbers, and then I got a session from him, and I remember I was doing handstands. I'd been practicing handstands by myself, well, what I thought were handstands. And he showed, like, just after the first session, he showed me a couple of little things, and my handstand went from like that. Don't get us wrong, it wasn't perfect, but it was like, yeah. I was like, this, and then from then that was like, that was the spark in my mind to see it. Right, if you wanted to get somewhere, in life, whatever that is, if it's training or something like that, understand that if somebody's in that position already, let me start again. Understand that it's quicker to get where you want to be if you get a coach. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. If you get a coach in that area, and then from there, so the calisthenics, I got into the calisthenics. He invited me down to the local park, Royal Oaks, where I trained a couple of times in that summer. And then that was the summer that I actually moved to New Zealand. And then that's where I was just like, right, I was banging at my training. I was 8 months into like doing calisthenics, doing my handstands and stuff. And one of the things that I said in my head is I always said that I would like to try yoga, just because I'm always interested in I'm interested in fitness and well-being and that sort of thing. And I thought, do you know what it is? This has got to be good in some way for my calisthenics. Like, it's got to be able to help in some way. And I know this because I know when I was doing the calisthenics training, before I started, I would do a few different stretches. I'd be having the stick behind my head and opening up my shoulders. And now, like, I know how important that is. Like, you've got to work on your mobility on your shoulders to be able to do a handstand like this. Otherwise, the mechanics don't work. You can't do a handstand with your hands there. You've got to be like, you've got to be protracted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've got to have that mobility and so anyways, when I was in New Zealand, literally in my street was Auckland Yoga Academy, and I was like, well, I've got no excuse at all. Like, there's a yoga studio in my street, and there's nobody around here to judge me. There's nobody around here to say that yoga's just for girls. I was like, do you know what it is? I'm going to go and do it. So I went down, done the first session, and it was like your first session's free kind of thing. And it was Ashtanga. Ashtanga is a yoga practice, and it's quite hard. I'm not sure what happened to the audio there. So yeah, as I was saying, I was in New Zealand. I got sent there for work for the company who I was working for at the time, and yeah, there was in my street, like where I was living in my flat, there was Yoga Academy, Auckland Yoga Academy, and I was like, always said I would do this. I'll give it a try. Even more so now with the calisthenics, I was like, no excuse. There's nobody around here to judge us. Nobody around here to say yoga's for girls or whatever. And even if I go there and I look stupid or whatever it is when I'm doing the yoga, nobody even knows us. So do I care? I was like, no, I'm just going to go and do it and see what it's all about. So I went to the first session, and it was an Ashtanga beginners practice, and it completely blew my mind. I got, because that is very rigid. Like, the teacher's at the front, and he or she is like taking you through the practice, and it's just non-stop, and it's like you're holding breath, not holding your breath, but holding positions for 5 breaths, and some of it is really hard now. When you get to the end of that, I don't know if you've done yoga before and done like shavasana and stuff. So when I go through that, like sweating buckets, I've just been stretched right out to an inch of my life. And I remember at the end, it was like, is this, like, I was thinking, how long is this going on for, kind of thing? Like, this is hard, but hard, yeah. me being like, no, I'm getting into calisthenics, I can do handstands, this, that, and the other. I'm not good. This is the beginners class. I'm going to get this done. So I did, and I pushed myself like massively. And I remember at the end, and it was like, right, now now lie down on your mat. And it was like, close your eyes and your hands out. And I was like, and then the teacher came up, because they had blankets and everything. Me came up, put a cushion underneath me. I think it was just underneath my knees. Put like a cushion underneath my neck, a bolster or something, and then a blanket, and tucked us right in. And me, like, I was like, all right, well, this is a bit weird, but I'll go with it. Like, I've never experienced that before. I was like, all right, this must be just part of what it is. And I remember just like closing my eyes and just going into the shavasana and just not thinking about anything. Like, no racing thoughts or anything. I wasn't thinking about this, that, and the other. I felt very, 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 very calm and peaceful. And then when she took us in, and it was just like,
do you feel like it was maybe a spiritual experience for you, Jason? Like, you know, one of the earliest spiritual experiences? Yeah.
Definitely. It was like, after that, it was like, what have I just been through?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, what have I done? What have I done? Not like that, but like, what have I just been through, kind of thing? And it was like, this is amazing. I remember, like, I was looking through my highlights video, and I clicked on the first yoga. It was like, I was like, what have I just been through, kind of thing. And it was like, do you know what it is? It was great. It was amazing. And straight away, I got a membership. And I was down at the studio 6 o'clock every morning before work. I was going to work, and I was literally going into work. I was bouncing off the walls. We had so much energy, and just like, whoa, like, it was just like, right, that's a new experience. Try that. And it was amazing. And then from there, it was just like, do you know what it is? Because I knew I was going traveling afterwards, and obviously I was in New Zealand. I was like, I'm going to try different things. When I get an opportunity, I'm going to try something different. And it was kind of a rule of mine of like, right, you've got to at least try like 1 or 2 things each year, something brand new. And and in that year, I 2019, I'd practiced yoga. What else did I do? I went surfing for the first time, which and skiing as well, which was nuts, right? Because the skiing I'd done in New Zealand. Now I only skied once before that, and that was it was a week before I went to. Well, no, I tell a lie. We've got a slope. It's still swift, but you've seen what it's like. It's not skiing, right? But it's like what you would go on as a kid just to learn the little basics. That was years ago, but the first real skiing was in New Zealand, and it was a week before I went on the ski trip. I went to Snow Planet, and it's just like an indoor snow place, and I picked it up so easily. I picked it up really easily, and I was like, all right, I'm buzzing for this, like, because I wasn't sure at first. I was like, in my head, I was like, I don't want to come away and get injured and stuff, and like break a knee or something. Do you know what I mean? Like skiing, like I'm like, I want to be able to enjoy myself. I was like, no, I want to do it. Done it, and like I got put with a beginners group at first, and I remember going down barely even a slope. It was like, I think my street's steeper as well, and you know what street I live in, it's like it's not very steep. And I'd done a couple of rounds, and I was like, I'm sorry guys, I was like, I'm gonna have to like leave this group and just go off by myself and do my own thing. And I was like, I'm gonna go on to the next, on the bigger one. I'm like, all right, yeah, no worries, we'll catch up with you in a bit. So I went on to the next thing, and got to the top, and then flying down, and then I was getting the hang of like turning in and out of people. I was zooming in and out of people. I was ducking down to the side and bending my knees. I was flying around corners, in and out of people, and like just seeing people in front of us, and just like, you're like, that's where I'm going. And I was just like, and I remember getting to the bottom there, and I was like, what? How am I doing this? How am I doing this? I was like, this is good skiing. This is really good skiing.
Yeah.
And then I was like, a couple of goals on there, fell off quite a few times, because you know when you come up the edges and you can't see what's on the side, kind of thing. So it's like, got to bail this, and it's like literally just throw yourself to the floor, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'd done that a few times, but it was just like I was getting better and better, and each time I was like getting to the bottom, and then I was like, do you know what it is? I'm going on to the next one. And I went up higher, and I remember bumping into some of the people who'd done skiing for years, and even like the people who I was like on the trip with, and they were all saying like how good I've been doing and stuff, like, and I was just like, do you know what it is? This is why you need to try new things, because you could be really, you could be like, well, maybe not world class at it, but you could be really good at something, right? And you might not ever try it because of whatever reason that is. And it's like, don't let the inner voice in your head tell you not to try it, or don't let like other people's opinions like hold you back, kind of thing. Just go and try things, really.
And I feel like it also gets easier as well, like, you know, like, and that, like, this is what I wanted to bring this up, because I just wanted to highlight the importance of just like getting out there and just trying new experiences, and like, because you just learn a lot about yourself, you know, physically, mentally. Like, you know, you had the spiritual experience with the yoga, that never would have occurred. The skiing, that's a physical thing. You never even knew that you were good at skiing. And it's like, I feel like it gets easier. I think the first time you do something new, you're always like really shit. And like, that's another thing that I want to highlight is we have to be okay with being shit at something. We have to be okay with like starting at the bottom. Like what you said with yoga there, how hard that was. You were in the beginners class and you're like, holy fuck, I might even give up here, you know, but that's okay. Where in some aspect, especially in myself in the very past, used to be, if I wasn't like good at it at first, then like, oh, well, I'm shit at that, so I'm just going to not try it again. But like what I'm starting to realize is you've got to have the courage to be shit at something new. You've got to start from the bottom, whether that's like in my life personally, whether that's coaching or podcasting or fucking whatever, like, you know, anything for like trying to play an instrument or something. You've got to be okay with being shit at it. And you've got to be okay with like building on top of that and being okay with the slow progress. But yeah, like just trying new experiences is, if not the most like fundamental thing to my life, and probably to your life. And I feel like now it gets easier. So like once you start and you start to realize like how much growth and how much like enjoyment and how much awareness you have about yourself every time you just say yes to something new, it just gets easier and easier and easier, and it gets more exciting and more exciting, because you're all you're doing all the time is just learning more about yourself. And that could be, yet again, like we talked about in business, you could try yoga and you could be like, I fucking hate this. This is shit, you know? And then, okay, that's great, because then you know that you hate yoga. That's also something you're learning about yourself. And I feel like the more you learn about yourself, the more awareness you have about who you are and what you do and don't like, the more comfortable and more confident you are in yourself, you know?
Definitely.
Do you feel that? Do you feel like because you've
100%.
experienced life, you have more confidence to be you? Because I see you, Jason, as a very authentic person, a very vulnerable person, and you hold that very close to who you are. And do you feel like it's because of you've experienced all these things?
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. Like, I wouldn't be doing half the things that I'm doing now if it wasn't for trying new things. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't have, if I didn't try yoga, I wouldn't be teaching yoga now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if I didn't do the yoga, maybe I wouldn't get as good as Cali, and I wouldn't be as far on as in my journey as like I wouldn't have. If I didn't take on the yoga, I wouldn't be as far on as my journey as I am, and just all the various things that I've sort of done through this. I mean, I launched yoga every hour last year, and all the while, like, we have took a break for the past few months. That is, it's like my little baby. Do you know what I mean? Like, I will relaunch that again next year, and that'll be the right time, kind of thing. I am going off a little bit here, but I just want to point out that, like, I wouldn't have done any of that without even just taking the first step to say, do you know what it is? I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try yoga today. And like I say, it could be anything. You might actually find through that. Like, I remember when I'd done that, and I'd been practicing the yoga, and I was loosening off, and I was getting things, and I could see that I was making progress in the class quicker than some of the people who'd already been there. And even some of the instructors said, look, you're making really good progress here. And it's like, I found out through doing that is what I want to do with my life. Like, that was my passion in it. And it took literally working for 10 years, maybe contracting, job to job, and that wasn't a bad thing. That was like by choice. And because the way I used to work would be like, I'd do a rollout. So let's say a company goes from Windows 7 to Windows 10, we go and do the work for a few months, and then the work's finished. So then I go to another job. And that's how that was. But anyways, it took me to go through all of these jobs to work for the company who I'm still employed by, is like one of the biggest law firms in the world, to be sent to the other side of the world, to New Zealand, to be put up in like it's fairly decent accommodation. Like, I was living right next to the Auckland Tower. I could probably throw a stone at the office. Do you know what I mean? It was like very, very close. It took me 30 seconds to get to work, almost. Do you know what I mean? But like, just I'm going off on again, but it took me to get to the best, in my eyes, the best IT job I've ever had, to figure out that actually I don't want to do this. I want to do and it took me to the other side of the world to go and do yoga, to say, actually, this is what I want to do with my life. And it's
and that takes courage in itself, because a lot of times we put so much. It takes courage, because sometimes, I mean, I'm guilty of this as well. You put I'm guilty of this on my different ideas and stuff that I put so much time and effort into it, and I'm really passionate about it at the beginning. But then I start to realize the further I get down the path, I'm like, well, this is not actually what I want to do. But it takes some sort of like ability to realize that, and then change lanes and start again from scratch. Because it's all about being honest with yourself and being like, well, this isn't actually what I want to do. So I'm still going to be true to finding the thing that I want to do. So I am actually going to quit now while I'm ahead. And I still, like we've talked about, I've learned a lot from this experience. I'm going to take what I've learned to the next experience. But I feel like often I used to get caught up in like, well, if I've put a year into this, I've just got to keep going with this, whatever, even though I'm miserable with my life, even though I don't even feel good in myself, you know, like I have to stay with this. But now I'm better. I'm getting better and better at catching myself and being like, because also it goes into kind of like masculinity in a sense, because every time you like quit something, you feel less than, you know, you feel like you've failed and you feel like you're quitting while you're ahead. And I feel like in society that's like shunned, you know, you should give it your all and you should be so productive and keep going and going and going. But like all I see is people in lines of work or even in like themselves so far down a path that they're not happy with, but they're unable to give it up because they've spent so much time and effort going down that path that they think that it's going to be a loss. But realistically, if they do change paths, it's going to be better for everybody. It's going to be better for you. It's going to be better in life because you're going to be going down new experiences. And yeah, there's just something to that.
I completely agree, mate. I completely agree with that. And going off what you say, it will make you sort of a better person as well, because I know, like, let's say if you're in a job that you hate and you're going home at the end of the day every night and you're moaning to the missus or this, that, and the other, and then that effect is going to have a negative effect on her or the rest of your family and stuff. And it's like, yeah, you're completely right there. And another thing about, like, trying new things and stuff and figuring out if it's not for you, like, again, what you're saying there, you don't have to feel like, just because I've spent a year on this kind of thing, this is it. And you can make changes. And what I would say is, don't look at it as like a failure again. Just take what I've learned from there, and then next time I come to do something, maybe I'll use that skill and I'll be a little bit further on than where I would have been if I didn't have that skill, kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. I want to change topic. I think we've been on a while now, so I'm just gonna, like, we're gonna probably just do another 20 minutes if you're okay with that. Like,
yeah, I'm not pushed for time or anything.
Because I've got some questions I like to ask people at the end here. Some, like, like maybe personal questions, but questions about life. But I do want to touch on something, which might be a bit of a controversial topic for us to talk about, or I don't know. I'm always feel uneasy talking about this topic because it's something close to me and it's something close to my past. But it is drugs and alcohol, because I know that was a big part of our lives growing up, and I know that it's still very, it's just something that was a big part of my life, and it kind of still is, and I'm still navigating it. But I know that you personally don't, you don't drink a lot of alcohol. You don't, like, go out partying every weekend. And but I know, like, people listening don't know us, but we used to do that all the time.
Oh yes.
And like,
well, yeah, going back to the beginning of this podcast, when I was in Ibiza, so, like, that was literally partying for 4 months. That was crazy. So, like, and before then, like, so for people who's listening, we grew up in a town where there was never nothing around for us to do. Like, when we finish school on a night and stuff. What I would generally do at first, it was probably something. And yeah, this was like from a young age, but like 12, 13-year-old, 14-year-old smoking weed. And then probably around 14-year-old, it was saving money up during the week, or saving dinner money. And then we'd all go and meet at the Black Path on a Friday. You'd have, like, your 4 cans or something, or a little quarter bottle of vodka or whatever it is you were drinking, meet up with everybody, and everybody would get drunk. And when you look back on it, you're like, shit, how young were we then, mate? How young did we start? And it's like this, and that's another thing that it's one of the reasons that I've sort of stayed home recently as well. Is it doesn't seem like there's that much around here for the younger generation anymore. And I want to change people's perspective of, like, you don't need to think that you need to go out on a weekend. And another thing I'm working on is getting a calisthenics park built in Steam as well as working with friends on, working with Dan and Cav on Project Sol and stuff, and actually helping, like, our younger generation in the community. And I'm just I'm going off again, but
I like that. I like what you touched on that, because I like what you said there, because it's you. It's like what you said to a base, like, the younger generation only know one option. Like, it's just like every younger generation coming through looks to the older generation to see what they do. And I mean, for me, it was looking up to, like, you guys, or even older than you, where, like, that was just a thing, and there's no judgment here. That's what just happened. There's no judgment at all. It's just what happened, and you went and you drank, and you said such a young age, and then it started with drugs, and it was just so normalized to the point where I look back now and think, like, I was taking drugs and drinking at such a young age, to the point where, like, I'm now in Canada here, and if I tell my story, if I'm very vulnerable to people and, like, really open up to maybe it's my girlfriend or people here, they're really thrown back by it. They're like, what? And then like it's like a nice reflection of like, oh shit, yeah, it is pretty crazy, isn't it? But now I like what you're saying, because we just like you going to Ibiza and not knowing any other option till you're actually seeing that there's another option. Like you are now creating other options. We're trying to educate the younger generation. Like you don't have to go and get a bottle of cider from the shop and drink on the streets. You can go to the gym. You can come to boxing. You can do calisthenics. You can meet as a group, and you can even just meet as a group of friends and not have to drink. Like that's another thing with me with my men's group and stuff like that. It's like I am now comfortable just hanging out with lads and hanging out with, me friends without having to drink alcohol, which is something in the past, like I couldn't do that. And that was just me personally. I don't know, I kind of talk for anybody else, but me personally in myself, I only felt like I could socialize when I was drinking. And to try and unlearn that and learn that I can socialize without alcohol by just going to like these different events, or even just hanging out in a cafe or hanging out even in a restaurant or pub, but not having to drink, has been huge for me, like relearning that, because I didn't even know that there was an option. Like I kind of hardwired to just socialize and drink. And even though I do have speed, like I still drink. Like I still I still like to drink. I still like to have a drink, once every 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whenever it is. It doesn't matter. But now I feel like I'm drinking because I'm celebrating like life, and I'm celebrating going out and having some relaxing time, where I felt like when I was growing up, I was trying to escape every weekend. I was like caught in the cycle of just every weekend. That's just what I did. And I never really had any like cognitive intuition about like, why am I keep doing this? Because it kept making us feel like shit. And every time I took drugs all weekend, I kept feeling like shit. But because I just didn't know what else to do, it was just the thing that I did, And I feel like
it is, mate. It's like when you're bored, you try and entertain yourself, and the only way we knew was to go out and go and get a drink.
Yeah.
And like you see, because we were all from like school on the weekend, you go out and you get drunk, and that's what we see other people doing. So we think, well, that's right, and that's what you do. And you must be boring if you don't drink.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not drinking this weekend. You're not drinking this weekend. Oh, you're boring us out, mate. Do you know what I mean? And that was the crack. It was like, oh, he's just, and I've said this myself, and you probably said it yourself.
100%.
If you like, talking to the lads, and it was like, who's coming out, and such and such is coming out, and it's like, thingy's not coming out, he's being boring. And that was the phrase. It was like, he's being boring, he's not coming out. And it's like, when you think about it now, it's like, no, you're going out because you're bored. Yeah. I've got loads of stuff to get on with now. Like, I've got loads of things I can do. And I had a conversation with somebody at the sauna today, and I was just like, he was like, oh, but like when it gets to the weekend, it's hard, isn't it? And he was like, he runs just like a pint, and then with a pint of like this. And I was like, I says, you need to find out what you need to do to stop you getting bored. I says, you need to start spending some time on your passions, or starting to do something, or learning something, or whether it's like going to play golf or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? Or you could be like, right, I want to learn video editing or something like that, and start spending your time on that. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing for people who, going back to another conversation we had earlier, if you are wanting to make a change in your life and stuff, and then stop going out drinking on a weekend, and maybe use that time and the money, and put that money into a course or something, or start saving or whatever it is, or start like using that time to learn something. Do you know what I mean? Like, people say, oh, I haven't got time this, I haven't got time that, but people are going to watch 3 hours of Netflix on a night or something. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, come on, just spend an hour doing something else.
Like I said, there's no judgment here. Like, I think drinking definitely has a place, and like, I love it. But I'm just thinking of
anybody who does Netflix or anything.
Yeah, I know. Like, but the thing is, no, there is no judgment. But the thing is, like, what I'm trying to highlight is like, some people don't know that there's another option. Like, even when I was young, Jason, I used to look at Facebook statuses of like 10 years ago, and they used to be like, oh, fresh week. I like on a Sunday afternoon, I had a fresh weekend this weekend, get in, like, and like, it was like an achievement to like not drink on a weekend. It was like the biggest deal in the world to like not have a drink. And I was like, I feel super fresh on a Monday going into work. And it was like this thing that I needed to like express to the world that I don't know what to do without alcohol.
Everybody did it. You know? Like, I was off the drink this weekend.
Yeah.
What's the drink?
Yeah. It's kind of mad, and you're right. I feel like, I mean, I've got clients now who got, that I'm a coach, but I have clients where they're going through cocaine addiction, like not cocaine addiction where the life's consumed, but they just kind of get out of the habit of doing it every single weekend. And I want to be vulnerable here. Like I was in that for 5 years, you know, in that repetitive cycle of just sniffing every single weekend and sometimes during the week. And you're right in what you're saying. A lot of this, how we get out of this spiral is like, we have to put our energy somewhere else. We kind of just stop doing the one thing that we were so rewired to do every single weekend. We have to replace that with something positive, some positive dopamine, whether that's working on a business, going on a hike, you know, fucking decorating the house. I don't know what it is. It could be anything, but the energy has to be redirected to kind of break that cycle. And then you need to start being happy with like other things in life. You know, you need to start getting joy from other areas of life and not relying on alcohol for your only single thing that brings you joy. Because there's a lot of other experiences out there that bring us joy, but because we're so absorbed in like just drinking all the time, we just miss out on a lot of things. And this is just my personal opinion. And like I said, I don't want to, if anybody's listening, I don't want you to think that I'm casting judgment, because I'm not. All I'm trying to do is highlight alternative ways of living, ways of living and living a happier life. And some people that drink every weekend and they love it and they celebrate life every weekend, and that's great. Please do that. But there's some people out there who go out drinking because that's their only option and they want to break that cycle, but they don't know how to break that cycle. And that's the people I want to be speaking to now, to try and highlight this an alternative way of living. We can break that cycle.
I would like to point out that it's like, and this is another thing I think that we go through certain stages. Like I wouldn't change anything that I've done. I wouldn't change like drinking all those times or taking all those different substances or going to Ibiza and doing this, that, and the other, because I do believe that there's a time in your life where you need to go on and do whatever it is, and these are experiences as well. And it's like, it's like go out, party, do this, do that, the other. But when you get to a point where you feel like actually there's something else out there, or I want to try something else, or you're getting to a point where you're like thinking, I don't want to be doing this every weekend. That is your cue to say, right, okay, I've done my partying bit. I've done this part of my life kind of thing. It's not like I'm saying I'm not going to do it again, but maybe I need to turn my attention and my focus elsewhere for a bit, just to sort of to regain balance, really, because it is, you sort of can find yourself doing that every weekend, and before you know it, it's just like that's the norm, and it's like, whoa, you could have lost, like, you've got different areas in your life, and certainly I've learned this recently. It's like sometimes you need to take a step back and be like, right, what do I need to do here? Where am I lacking, kind of thing. And for me, like it's like when you think about that, when you think about doing the party and stuff, and you like going back to you when you were sniffing every weekend and you found yourself in that sort of that vicious cycle. It's like then you realize that there was, you know what I mean? When you realize that if it's a problem, or you realize that, right, okay, I should be doing something else, maybe that is your time to say, right, I'm going to go and try and pursue something else, or I'm going to try and learn something, or I'm going to make some changes in my life, I'm going to try some new things, or do you know what I mean? Like maybe that's the point in your life that you want to do that. I wouldn't ever judge anybody or put anybody down for going out and partying and enjoying themselves, and do you know what I mean? It's part of life, and it's part of who we are.
You're right. You're right, Jason. Like that partying, me doing all that is part of my life. I don't regret any sort of that, you know, and like that is part of me as well. And I learned a lot from all them experiences, and I enjoyed myself like fucking hell. Like I had a good, and I still do have a good time. And like I'm saying, and the funny thing is, Jason, I'm not over that now. It's still something that I know we've talked about this before. There's a demon, and that's still, that side of me still that is part of me. It's part of me shadow. Like that part of me who wants to go out and party and take drugs. Like that is still very much me. And like, it's just about me being able to control and like go down paths that I want to go down, instead of like having that side of me control me. Like I'm in control of that. So when I want to come back to that, if I want to go out and drink on a night out, then I do, but it's not something that's controlling me. I'm able to say no to it when I need to say no to it. So, okay. So I'm going to just ask you a few questions now. These are just off my list. Just like, you know, you can do one word answers. You can just go with the wind, take some time if you need to take some time, try and think of what because I know you're on the spot. But first of all, what is one thing you wished more people understood about you?
I have good intentions. Sometimes, and maybe people do think this about me. Sometimes when I'm starting something new or a new business or a new idea, and then I go and tell the world about this, in my head, sometimes I'm like, do they think, oh, now here he is again with with his new idea, or here he is again. I wish he would just choose something. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think like I'm just like, no, I'm trying. In my head, I'm like, and I have this conversation with myself. I'm like, I'm just trying this, mate. And then I'm like, I don't care if people don't engage with things that I put online or anything, anyways. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't really care anymore. And it's just like, I don't care about that, but I do want to get out there. I'm not. Do you know what it is? I'm not money focused. I'm really not. Money is indirectly I am, but I'm not. So I'm not doing all of these. I'm not coming up with all these business ideas and doing this, that, and the other to be like go and live off in a mansion somewhere. And like, do you know what I mean? I'm doing this right because I enjoy doing it. I do enjoy learning new things and trying new things, and it's exciting. It really is exciting, like doing different things day to day and meeting new people and all that sort of stuff. But I know that the things that I do will bring money later down the line, and I feel like I will have a lot of money later up down the line. But what I'm going to be able to do with that money is I'm going to be able to change so many people's lives. Like I'm going to be able to do so much good with that. Like I've got so many good ideas and good intentions, mate, and it's like, it's not for the gain of like anything for myself. It's just because I feel like it's like, and it's getting a bit spiritual here, but like I said before, I felt like I had a purpose. But I constantly think of ideas. I'm always thinking, and I'm like, why are these ideas coming to me then if I'm not supposed to act on them, kind of thing? So I'm like, do you know what it is? Just act on them. Don't need to act on them all at the same time. I don't need to be like this, and this. I'm just like, now I'm like, okay, stick to not too many things, like one or two things like that sort of fall in the same category and work on them. And then maybe later down the line, I'll come up the ideas that I've had in the past, maybe I'll start to roll out them kind of thing. But it's, yeah, I go off on quite a tangent, mate, but I want people to know that my intentions are good and it's not all for money. It's for what I can do with that.
Good.
Money.
That's awesome. And Jason, don't worry about going off in tangents. I mean, the podcast, this is just an authentic conversation between two people. So like, you know, tangents are good. Like I let people race the mind race. I want to see you. I want to see how your mind works. I want to see where your mind goes. It's interesting, you know. That's why I never try and cut you off, because it's like I want to see every part of you, regardless of what tangent you go down. So just keep doing what you're doing. What do you fear the most?
What I fear, getting old, sitting in my chair and thinking, what if I tried that? What if I'd done that back 50 years ago? Do you know what I mean? What if I tried yoga 50 years ago? Do you know what I mean? Imagine if I'm sitting there saying, what if I tried, if I'm sat there 80-year-old in my chair and I'm like, do you know what it is? Regretting about the things that I didn't do. That's the biggest fear, is regretting the things that I didn't do.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. Yeah, and it's one of my biggest fears. And I mean, it goes to show for your life, Jason. It's you like, and it goes to go. It actually relates to what you've just said before. The answers of like trying all these new business ideas and stuff. It's because you don't want to leave any stone unturned. It goes to show in your life how you're trying all these new experiences. It's like you're not doing it for money. You're doing it because you're having these ideas and you're trying to help people, and you don't want to leave any stone unturned. You don't want to be sitting in your chair at your old thinking like, I should have tried to sell pizzas. Like that might have been the thing. That might have been the thing that helped people, you know, get healthy, and like it would have been a great business. Like you don't want to leave anything unturned. I think that's beautiful. I think that's awesome. I think it's a good for you to have.
And it just, when you just touched on the pizzas there, right? Hashtag NutriDough, by the way. So this is a thing that I was thinking of over the past couple of months, and you've obviously seen online that I've posted about pizzas and stuff recently. But I was like, a few people had the pizzas and they're like, they're good, they're really good and that, and I was like, should I or not? Or should I or not? And do you know what it is? I was like the other day, I was just like, do you know what it is? People need to taste these. And I bit the bullet. I put a status on yesterday, mate. Yesterday while I was in the gym,
I've
right?
seen it blow up. It's crazy.
Yeah, while I was in the gym, right, while I was training, I was like, I know it's only 15 pizzas, but I put it on there, 15 pizzas, first come, first serve. Mate, within 20 minutes, they were sold out. And then, I was still training. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, these pizzas are sold out. Like, I could have been doing this before. And it was just like, this isn't my new business. Like, not my new business, by the way. Like, I've got plans for NutriDore, but it's more of the getting it out there and getting people to try it and just to make sure that the product actually works, kind of thing. And yeah, the product itself is like, it's plant-based, it's gluten, wheat and dairy free, and it ticks a lot of boxes, and like you say, it will help a lot of people, because there's a lot of people who's got intolerances now to like the wheat, gluten, like bread, that sort of things, and maybe that like you say, and it could be their start to like the first step in the direction of getting healthy would be start with a healthy pizza, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I'll just want to on that, but yeah, keep an eye out for NutriDore.
Sweet. Well, and it's also, I mean, even before you start selling them, when we've been having phone calls, Jason, like, you're passionate about that. You enjoy making the dough. You enjoy making the pizzas. This isn't something you dread. So it's like, regardless of you're still enjoying the process of making the pizzas and giving them to people and listening to people's feedback about the pizzas. Like, that's more important to you than the actual money aspect of it, which is,
it is.
You can feel that through it all. That's why it's a good idea, because we can, like, as a consumer, we can feel when someone's being authentic, or we can feel when someone's trying to sell us something and want it for money. We can distinguish that. We all can. We can all distinguish when we've got a salesman or we've got someone wanting to help us. Like, it's two things. Next question is, are you afraid of death? And do you have any thoughts around what happens after death? And this might be a bit spiritual, because I know that we haven't touched on any spirituality. I know that that's two big things of our life. We like to talk about that, and we like to touch on that. So yeah, let's maybe touch on a little bit about death.
So yeah, maybe a few years ago, yes, I would have said that I was scared of death. Now I'm not. Kind of okay with it. Reason being, and it goes into the spiritual side of things, is we are so we are just balls of energy, pretty much. Like, we are. If you and you know this, but this is for people who's listening. Like, if you were to zoom in on a cell on your body, so if you zoom in on your finger and then you see the skin, and then you zoom in on the skin and you see the skin cells, then you zoom in on that, and it's like, all right, that cell is actually 95% space, and it's got a little a proton and a neuron buzzing around it. And the way I look at it, that's just like a little mini planet. Think about it. Or a little mini solar system. We're just like a bunch of billion, trillion solar systems all held together through consciousness. So, and energy is can neither be destroyed or created. It just moves from one form to the other. In my mind, I am a ball of energy, a million, billion, trillion little solar systems flying around each other, held together by consciousness. And when I die, all of my little cells, all my little solar systems will go into the ground and be used as something else. And maybe my soul, my spirit, will go off into back into the universal consciousness world and be drawn into somebody else to be reincarnated. And that's like sort of how I think now. I'm like, I used to be fully atheist, like, no, you die, you're dead, you're in the ground, bye. Now I'm like, no, like, you didn't die, you've never died, and I actually think I've been reincarnated, which I don't know if we had this conversation the other week. And it was through practicing psilocybin, through practicing mushrooms. I've had various different experiences, and experiences definitely where you feel like you're connected to everything, and when you feel that, it's such a strong feeling, and it's such a powerful feeling that sort of confirms like the things that I was thinking. So like, is there a life after death? Maybe our consciousness goes to another plane of reality or something like that, or maybe we just do continuously get recycled and our soul goes into the newborn baby kind of thing. Because if you think about it, there's people, there's like kids and stuff. There's like, I'm sure there's a documentary on Netflix. They've remembered like past bits of they've remembered bits of past life lives, and they've actually been like, some kids have actually been able to visit places of where they died, right, and actually get through trauma and stuff, like get rid of that trauma kind of thing. And it's like, how can they like how can they remember all that, or how would they even know this information if there wasn't a way of, like, I don't know, like getting memories from past lives and stuff. Like apparently they're doing all sorts of, well, the scientists, doing all sorts of research on consciousness and these kinds of studies, and it's mad to think about. But yeah, the question: am I afraid of death? No.
No.
I don't think I am. I'm more bothered about. I'm more bothered about other people thinking, oh, fucking Jesus, like if I was to die tomorrow, for instance, I don't want to die. I'm in more sense of bothered about other people, like how they would feel, not, oh, I'm dead now kind of thing. No, I feel like things happen for a reason, and even some deaths and stuff. And sometimes I'll rack my brain so much with things. Like I had a friend, like one of my best friends back in the day, who died last year, and that was like how can that still doesn't make sense, to be honest. That doesn't make sense. But I've seen other things, like other situations where maybe somebody's passed away, and then certain things have happened through that, and I'm like, when I think about it, it's like, was there a purpose in that? And I always try and see the good in things, and try to think of it in that way, as like, was there a reason? Was there a purpose why they went or got took away? And sometimes there is, and probably, well, every time there probably is. It's just, for me, it's like, I certainly didn't say why that happened, but like some of the stuff like that is unexplainable, but like sometimes things do have a purpose in that, and through the bad, there can be a lot of good that comes out of that, and it's
yeah, I feel you on that.
It's a funny one to work out in your head, because it's like why though? Why them, or why? Do you know what I mean? But it's like, if that thing, what happened, or that death or something, was the spark of something that changed so many lives, do you know what I mean? Then is that the purpose for it? Maybe. I don't know.
But them are the questions that you will never know, you know. When we might find out one day when we actually pass away and we go. But yeah, I love that answer, Jason. I think you answered all that perfectly. You know, I could really feel your answer being authentic there, so it was cool. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it.
It's cool.
Yeah, so you're not afraid of death, which is good. And I'm not going to take my take on it, because these are questions I like just ask people and get their take on things. Last question, Jason, before we wrap things up. What's one thing you want to thank yourself for throughout your life up till now? Like, what's one thing from Jason when he was born to now? Like, what's one thing you want to thank yourself for? These are often the hardest ones, because we have to talk about ourselves in a positive manner. But yeah, I want to hear it.
Recently, the past few years, thanking myself for being me, thanking myself for stepping out my comfort zone. Thank you, Jason, for being able to cook the best pizzas, most nutritional pizzas going. I've been here, just thank myself for, I don't know, just trying new things and stuff, and experiencing new things, and pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And that's just one thing I'm quite proud of. Now I feel like when an opportunity comes my way that might scare me, that means I should do it. It's all the more reason for doing it, because I'll give you, for instance, like I went to Baltic Festival. It was the first festival I've been to in years, right? But the conditions of that. So I don't know if I told you this, but anyways, I'll tell it for who's listening. So I was with my friends, and so the DJ is Walker, and I was talking about festivals and stuff, and his Nicholas is. She was like, "Oh, we're going to Bolton Festival, why don't you come? They say, Sean, see if we can get you a ticket. So I was like, oh, what can we get us, like, can you see if you can still get us a ticket for Bolton Festival? He's like, oh, I'll ring CG, I no bother, we'll get one sorted. And I was like, all right, champion. I got an email through and it said artist on the ticket. And it was like, I was like, all right, they must have, I was like, oh, champion, they must be like sorting us the ticket out somehow. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like just, you know, sorting the job out.
Yeah.
Plus one kind of like under the radar kind.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, and then I got a text message about 10 minutes later. I got a text message and then I got a Facebook message and I got a picture of the lineup, and it was the lineup of who's MCing and who's DJing, and it was MC JCG. So that's my nickname. Like that's my younger nickname from when I grew up, JCG. And it was MC JCG first on the lineup, and I was like, no way. I was like, but in my head, like, so I had like over the years driving about in the car by myself or in the bath or whatever. Like we grew up in like a rave culture, so like DJing and MCing and stuff. And I would MC to myself all the time, all the time. Like, and in my head, it was like it'd be so cool to be like MCing in front of people and that. And but I'd never do it in front of a lot of people. I could do it in the kitchen and stuff, you know, kitchen parties and that. Do it with a couple of the lads, but other people there I'd just like get like talk and like not know what I'm like what if they even see, like forget everything that was in my head to come like my lyrics and stuff. And anyway, so I was like, do you know what it is? This is nuts because I've always thought about this, and I was like, this is the university, and like, yeah, here's the festival tickets, but you've got to go out your comfort zone here, and you've got to do something that you've actually thought about years and years and years. And I was like, do you know what it is? There's not a chance that I'm not doing this. I was like, I am doing this because this is the biggest thing that's out of my comfort zone ever. It's like, it's all good and well standing in front of a camera going live in front of Facebook or whatever, but you haven't got like hundreds of people there in front of you in person, and you're not standing up on a stage with a mic, with a DJ behind you, while everybody, do you know what I mean? So that was like a lot of pressure for me, and I was like, do you know what it is? I'm just going to do it. And I remember driving down to Wales. I wasn't driving, I was a passenger, so I wasn't on my phone. But I was sat there, I was on my phone, I wasn't driving on my phone. I was sat writing lyrics on the way down, like just like racking my brain of like things that I would say and stuff. And when I got there, I picked up the mic and stuff and started doing it. I put my phone down, I didn't even use my phone. And do you know what it is? I had the time, honestly, best time in my life. And there was people who came up to us the next year, man, and they were like, mate, you're doing really well there. Like, they were like, I was feeding off your energy, like, I was buzzing off you. Like, they were like, remember when you done this? Remember when you said that? And I was like, oh, this is unreal. This is like, for me, being like scared to go and do something like that, to MCing on a stage at a festival. I was like, this is why you need to, if you get an opportunity where you need to go out your comfort zone, just do it. Just do it. Don't think of like, what if that. What if you have the best time of your life? Do you know what I mean? What if you go and have the best time of your life? And I did, and just thank you, Jason, for getting up on the mic.
I love it, Jason. I think that's a beautiful way to end the podcast, because I think the whole message throughout this whole thing, if I'm right, is like you encouraging people to get out of the comfort zone, to go and experience different things, whether that's business, whether that's changing careers, whether that's different experiences in life, whether that's different experiences of trying on new masks and trying to get back to your authenticity. I feel like the whole theme has just been that in itself, to push yourself out of your comfort zone, you know, try and get out there, try new experiences. So it was a beautiful way to end. So thank you. Wow. So Jason, I want to wrap it up, but just, I want to say thank you just for being you. Just thank you for showing up and like being vulnerable.
Thank you for having me here. And
thank
again,
you. Just
thank you. It's the first time I've done a podcast, and I was like, you know, you were asking us a few weeks ago, and I wasn't sort of ready and stuff, and I was just like, you know what it is? Like, again, had to go out of my comfort zone a little bit, but yes, like literally with us speaking the first 5 minutes before, like 10 minutes or whatever it was before here, like you've probably seen by my body language. After that, I would just like sit here, and it's just a conversation, and sometimes it's not what you think it's going to be. So don't let that.
No, and like it's the same for me. I mean, this is the second podcast I've ever done. Like I've done my own little thing, but I mean, look what I was like before this. I was meditating before, trying to calm myself down, because yet again, this is me what we've just talked about, this is me, a different experience. This is me pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I'm shitting myself the whole entire time. It probably was only till like 45 minutes in when my heartbeat started to calm down. And it's like, a lot of people don't know this though. A lot of people see probably a lot of confidence here and a lot of this and a lot of that. But I want to show people, like, especially highlight this now, like there's a lot that goes into this, a lot of fear, you know, a lot of fear and a lot of fucking nervousness and anxiousness. And like, but I still show up and do it. And I'm not giving myself loads of credit here, which I am in a sense, but I just want to highlight, like, it's not easy. And when we see people online doing these things, we think, oh, they've got like a special talent, or they've got a special gift, or they're super confident in themselves.
Yeah.
It's never normally the case. It's normally that they're able to just sit in the uncomfort, sit in the anxiety, and still just go ahead with it, and just be okay with being anxious and being okay with being shitting yourself. Like you on the mic, you know, you weren't really calm going on the mic, but you were fucking okay of getting on the stage and being anxious, but still going ahead and doing it. You know, you were probably nervous going into yoga thinking, what the hell am I doing? But you were still okay to go ahead with it. Same with calisthenics, same with walking up to him in the gym and being like, can you coach me? There's just same with businesses. This business is like way out my depth. Like, is this even going to work? But guess what? I'm still going to go ahead with it because I'm okay of sitting in the discomfort, and I'm okay of just going ahead with the things that I want to do, without needing to feel ready and now without feeling to need confidence first, because that's not how life works. You know, confidence comes later. You build confidence. You don't get confidence and then you do things, you know? But yeah, Jason, honestly, I fucking love you, dude. And I honestly, I feel like I said, I see it again, but like, I feel like I've truly seen you, you know what I mean? Sitting with you, and I know that I respect you highly because you are one of the people that inspired me to, like I said, to be vulnerable, to be authentic. And every time I speak to you just off the podcast, it's always just, I always just get Jason, you know, I always get the raw you. And I really admire that about people when we're able to really take off our masks and just talk about real life shit. So just thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on. And yeah, I appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Really, thank you.